Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about becoming a new teacher. It's a little sit down chat with my upcoming training. It had me thinking about my first two trainings. It's had me thinking about my first two trainings and how I felt about teaching and beginning teaching and how nervous I was and how uncomfortable I was and how comfortable I am now and all of that stuff. And I get a lot of questions about becoming a teacher and tips for new teachers, and I thought that this is a perfect time to make this video while I have the time today to sit down and chat with you. So if you're looking for some tips to becoming a yoga teacher, then keep watching. I'm drinking this vegan mineral broth right now and it's so good. I'm doing a gut reset by Alo Venice and it is really, really yummy. Where do I even start? Let me first just say this, that before I started teaching, well, no, let me even rewind way back. When I first did my 2 yoga teacher trainings, I had no desire to be a teacher. I really didn't. I did them to kind of put myself in like a yogi or spiritual boot camp of sorts. It was like I wanted to learn more, I wanted to completely immerse myself, and like I said, I had no desire to teach. With that being said, it was always in the back of my mind that if I ever needed something to, it was really my fallback plan. I was like, if I ever need something to fall back on, it's great that I have this certification. But in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to be a yoga teacher. I don't want to be a yoga teacher. The thought of teaching yoga makes me nervous. And in my trainings, I really did not like practice teaching. I didn't like that whole aspect of it. I really loved learning about the poses, learning about the history, learning about the spiritual aspects, the other 7 limbs of yoga, because there are 8 limbs of yoga and the physical practice is just one of those 8. So I loved all of that, but the thought of like teaching and talking and thinking and remembering all that stuff was really daunting to me, which is interesting because I grew up as a performer. I sing, play guitar, piano, act. I was always the child, and I'm still, as an adult, that type of person where you put me in a room with people and I want to make everyone laugh and entertain people, and I like to be the center of attention and I like being on stage, but for some reason the thought of speaking and teaching yoga in front of people made me incredibly nervous and anxious, and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And I kind of think that's because yoga became so important to me and so personal to me that I just didn't think I was worthy of sharing it, right? I'm like, who am I to share it? I don't know everything. I don't want to guide someone. I don't have the authority to guide someone. And sometimes I think that's what makes me a good teacher, is because I'm not putting myself on a pedestal above my students. I'm just a student as well. We all are, right? Like, we never stop being a student. And I've definitely been to classes before where you just feel like the teacher puts themselves up here, and it's like, that just doesn't resonate with me. So I think that it's helped me as a teacher to stay humble, but it's also hindered me because it really held me back from starting to teach because I just didn't feel worthy of teaching. But once I accepted the fact that we are all students, we are all learning, and where I felt confident, where I knew enough, then I was able to begin to teach. But before that point, I really had a hard time wrapping my mind around feeling ready. And this is something that I'm going to touch on. But anyway, so if you are thinking about going to a teacher training, or you've already done one and you're really worried about teaching, just know that you are not alone and that it does get easier the more you do it. Like with anything, it just takes practice. When I first started teaching, or when I first started to explore the idea of teaching, people a lot of times, and even in my teacher trainings, I would hear the phrase, find your voice. I'm like, what does that mean? Find your voice? Like, my like Ariel from The Little Mermaid, I've lost my voice. Like, I don't get it. Find your voice. It just didn't make sense to me. And then I thought, oh, it means kind of, you know, find your, I literally took it literally, like find your teaching voice. Like, okay, like namaste. It's like, no. First of all, when you're teaching, teach in your regular voice. There's nothing worse than someone coming in with their yoga voice. It's like, yikes, that's awkward. Don't do that. Don't come in, or I don't think you should come in and teach in a way that you think a yoga teacher should teach. Just come in and be you and share what you know. That's like the number one thing. But back to finding your voice. Now that I teach, what I understand that to mean, and what that means to me, is finding the words, finding the flow of speaking. That to me is finding your voice. And that comes with doing it, right? You can practice all you want, but finding the fluidity of speaking poses and talking about adjustments and alignment points, that only really comes through practicing and actually teaching. So finding your voice is like, you know, guiding someone through sun salutations A. I would write it down and practice it, and I would sound like a robot, or I would, you know, get nervous. Oh man, I missed that word. It's like finding your voice is knowing, you know, how to guide people. Inhale, reach the arms up above the head. Exhale, forward fold. It's like finding that flow of words that helps you, you know, guide people in their yoga practice. So finding your voice, that's what that means to me. And how to do that, because it's an important part of teaching, is to just do it. Which brings me to my second tip. Just start. You gotta just start. I waited, once I decided like, I kind of think maybe I might want to teach. But then I waited because I didn't feel ready. And the thing is, with a lot of things in life, you may never feel completely ready. But the way you get ready is by starting. You have to just go for it. It's funny because I remember toying with the idea, thinking, yeah, I think I kind of want to start teaching. And I went to my teacher and friend, Ashley Platts, and I used to take her yoga class frequently. And I said, you know, I'm thinking about teaching, but I'm really nervous. And somehow we came to the agreement that I would assist her in her classes. I didn't say anything in class, right? I would just sit up in front of the room with her and do adjustments. And at this time I had already done 2 teacher trainings. The amount of teachers that have just one training of 200 hours is insane. Like, that's really all you need, apparently, to teach. But that's like the minimum requirements. And I had double that, and I still was like, I'm not ready. I don't know enough. I'm not worthy. But yeah, I remember assisting Ashley, and then I remember before I started teaching at Playlist, I was like, I'm not ready to get on the schedule yet. And my friend and teacher, Nicole Shaka, was like, I'll work with you. And I worked with her, I almost just said after school, but I'm not in school, but it felt like after school. But I'd get together with her during the week and talk about adjustments and alignment and how to say things, and I'd practice teach with her. And even after all of that, you know, the 2 trainings, the studying, the practicing on my own, practicing with Ashley and assisting her, practicing with Nicole, when it came down to me getting on the schedule to teach, I was so nervous still, and still dragging my heels the whole way, thinking, I'm not ready. So, long story short, you just have to do it. You just have to start. And know that the first handful of classes is gonna feel like a really bumpy road, and it's gonna feel uncomfortable. I remember leaving being like, oh, I don't like that, because I just felt so uncomfortable. And as adults, I think we don't really do a lot of things that we don't like, or that we feel like we're not good at. And so it's uncomfortable. No one wants to feel like they're bad at something. I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But the only way to get good or get better or feel ready is to just start. So if teaching's what you really, really want to do and you're really excited about it, but you just don't feel ready, push aside the excuses, swallow the fear, or spit it out, get rid of it, either way, and just start. You can only practice teach so much. You can only pretend teach in your house so much. You can only, stress about it so much. You just have to start. With that being said, I think it's really valuable to ask for support and reach out to other teachers. So if you have a class that you really like to go to or a teacher that you really look up to, don't be afraid to ask them for tips or support. That's what I did with Ashley and Nicole, right? I really respected them as teachers. I loved their teaching style. I felt like if I were teaching full-time, I would have a similar style to them. And I really trusted them and looked up to them as teachers, and I asked for help and support. Can I assist you? Can I work with you? Can I book a private with you? Can you help me? I want to teach, but I'm scared. And I feel like even though what really got me ready in the end was just like jumping into the pool, right, and going for it, those experiences with them were extremely valuable, and I wouldn't have gotten the courage to jump in had I not had their support. So that's my third tip, is to reach out to teachers that you respect and admire and ask for support and tips. As far as finding your first studio or getting your first teaching job, I hear all the time like, oh, it's so saturated. There's so many yoga teachers and and yeah, there are, but there are a lot of people on this planet doing a lot of different jobs, and it's a lot of things are saturated. It's like, okay, so what? Like, find what makes you you and let that be how you offer value to studios, right? No one is you, and that is your power. So while there are, I'm sure, millions of yoga teachers, no one is going to teach yoga like you teach yoga. So find a studio that you really love going to, that you really vibe with, and become part of their community. Start going to classes there. Start reaching out to the teachers. Start making friends with the other students. Chat with the studio managers before or after. Like, become a part of their community and show them that you care about the community, and share with them that you're interested in teaching, and show that you are passionate about their studio. I think it's really important to note that just because you love going to a studio, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to love teaching there. I had that experience with one of the studios that I taught at, which I still go and I still love the studio, but it ended up teaching there just didn't vibe with me, and that's totally okay. So know that there's going to be a trial and error process of finding the right studio for you to teach at, but I think the best way to get in with a studio is to become part of their community first and practice there and invest your time and energy and money into that studio, and show them that you'd be a valuable part of their team, and show them that you are interested in being a part of that community. So when it comes down to actually teaching, I have a couple of tips that has really helped me. And I remember in the beginning of teaching, I would take a lot of time to write out my sequences, and I'd have them on little tiny pieces of paper, and I'd hide them in my near my music or near my phone or my computer. And I felt like so nervous that I was gonna, on the whole way there, I was like, okay, we're gonna do this and this and this and this. And I honestly think that doing that caused me more stress, because I would get in front of everyone and maybe freeze up, or I'd miss one pose, and then I'd think, oh my gosh, I messed up the whole thing. And it was very stressful in the beginning. So I think that it's good in the beginning to make a plan, but then make a plan and then let it go. And this comes with practice though. I mean, now do I come in with a complete sequence in my head? No, I go in, I read the room, I come up with an area that we're going to focus on, whether that's hips or working towards a peak pose like half moon or crow pose or something like that. And I just, from experience of doing it now for so long, I can just kind of build a class around that, which is so fun because it feels much more creative and not so strict and bogged down by these rules and this plan that I have to follow. But I think in the beginning it is really important to like have a plan, but also just be okay with kind of letting go of that plan. So just like loosen the grip, I guess, is this tip. Like, don't be so fiercely cutthroat with yourself about hitting all these poses and this is the way it's gonna be. It's like most of the time the people that are in the class, they don't know what flow you're doing. They don't. Actually, not most of the time. None of them know what you're doing. Act confident and no one will question you. Like, as long as you're creating safe sequences that make sense, if you miss a pose out of your plan, they're not gonna know. Also, most of the people, I mean, you get like a couple of bad apples sprinkled in every now and then, but most of the people that are coming to yoga are coming to your class are coming because they like you, they appreciate you, they know you're human, and it's nice to see teachers and people that are, I hate to say like authority positions, but I guess you are because you're like guiding the class. It's nice to see them be human. When my yoga teachers say the wrong word or miss a pose, I'm not like, excuse me, you suck, get out of here. I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, it's not a big deal, you know? I think that we put this pressure on ourselves that we need to be perfect, and that's just not realistic. So don't be so hard on yourself. Remember that everybody messes up at everything. We're not perfect, and it's okay. Like, don't let it ruin the rest of your class. No. See? Just like this. Anyway, don't let it ruin the rest of your class. Don't let it throw you off. Don't beat yourself up over it. It's okay. And yeah, make a plan and let it go. Let it flow. Just like be a little more relaxed about it. I know that comes with practice, but yeah, I think having too much of a strict sequence that I was gonna follow just stressed me out more. Definitely sequence safely and make a sequence that makes sense. Anyway, going off on a tangent now. My next tip to help you do that and to help you stay on time is to use music. Create a playlist and don't just throw a bunch of songs together that don't make sense or don't go on in order. Like, really curate a playlist that's gonna help you stay on track with your class. There's nothing that I can't stand than someone being extremely late. Mostly in a workout, but like usually in a yoga class as well. For me as a student, whether I'm in a workout or whether I'm in a yoga class, I'm putting my phone away and trusting that you're gonna take me from the start to the finish in time so that I don't have to keep checking my clock because I'm parked at a meter or I have a meeting or whatever. I'm trusting my teacher that they're gonna be on time and go within the times that the class is. And it's so, I don't know, it's just like something that really irks me when people are like 5, 10, 15 minutes late ending the class. It's just kind of rude. Like, what if I got a ticket out of my car now? You know? So everybody's human and it happens, but I really think it's important to try to stay on time with your classes. And a way that I do that is I use my Apple Watch when I'm teaching, which is really great for me. It helps me stay on track and so that I don't have to keep checking my phone during class because I just think that that's kind of rude as well. But the other way is by creating a playlist. So I've specially created this playlist where I know my slower music is my warm-up music, and then when I hear the music starts to pick up, I know it's time to start to pick up the sequence. And then there's a peak pose where I have like a really intense song, and then I have slower music that starts to slow the class down, so I know, okay, it's time to start to cool down the class. And then I have a song that signifies like, okay, start to put them down on their backs, get them prepared for their final resting pose. And then I hear that Shavasana song come on and I go, okay, it's time to put them into Shavasana, and the class is over. Having that music that starts slow, builds, and then slows down again really helps me be able to stay on track with my time with my class, and also helps me know where I'm at within the hour of my class so that I can either continue to create continue to build on the flows that I've already had, or if whether it's time to like, okay, finish up this sequence and let's start to cool down, if that makes sense. So use music to your advantage. It's not, you know, kosher, for lack of a better word, to like stand up with your postcards and be like, okay, and the next flow is, you know, so to find that element of ease and relaxation up there while you're creating sequences in the moment, use music. That's a great way. It's like almost like invisible postcards, right? It's invisible index cards to help you stay on track and create your sequence so that it makes sense and so that you stay on time. My final tip is to stay a student. What I mean by that is I know that for most of us, if not all of us, we become teachers because we love yoga. But once it becomes our source of survival, you know, generally when people finish work, they want to go home and then decompress and do something else. So it's interesting because when you take your passion / hobby and make it your job, those lines get blurred a little bit. And I've definitely gone through stages in my life where, I don't know, I just lose the desire to practice, or I don't lose the desire, I'm like, oh, I'm tired. And I've just been at the studio all day or teaching clients all day, and then I get home and I'm like, oh, the last thing I want to do is get on my mat because I'm just wiped out. But it's really, really, really important to continue your personal practice, because I think if you stop, then you lose that passion, you lose that connection, and that's what yoga is all about, is connecting with people. And I think that you've got to prioritize your personal practice above teaching. So I went through a phase where I wasn't really practicing that much, and then teaching wasn't really that fun for me. I don't know what happened. I lost the excitement and the inspiration in teaching, and that's because I wasn't practicing. And I almost kind of became, I mean, resentful's a really extreme and dramatic word to use, because I wasn't in class being like, ugh, like seething, but there was this sort of resentment of being like, I want to be on the mat. I want to be the one on the mat. And no one was stopping me from doing that. I just wasn't prioritizing my personal practice. And that's why once I caught myself kind of getting into this mode of not making time for practice and feeling kind of almost this weird jealousy towards the people that I was teaching. That's, again, a very extreme word, because I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm jealous. But I just felt this feeling of, just didn't feel good. And the reason is because I wasn't prioritizing my practice. So I think it's really important to stay a student and to always be seeking more knowledge, which is why I'm going on a 3rd teacher training, because it's been a few years. And yes, I'm teaching at my dream studio, and yes, my classes are growing, and yes, I'm getting feedback that lets me know that people think that I'm a good teacher. But there's no end to me learning, and I want to be better. I want to give more. I want to keep learning. That truck outside is really annoying. You're messing up my inspirational speech. Thank you. Anyway, that's why I'm going on my teacher training, because it's been a few years since I've been in training, and I'm looking for some new inspiration. I'm looking for some new knowledge. I'm looking for a refresher. Those are my tips for today. I really hope that those help. If I think of any more, maybe I'll compile another list and make a follow-up video to this. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, because it really supports my channel. And if you feel like you want me to elaborate on a certain topic that I touched on, or if I didn't cover something that you want to know about, leave me a comment below and let me know, and I'll include it in the follow-up video. Also, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I'm going to Bali, y'all. I'm gonna be vlogging. I don't know why I say y'all. I'm from here. I'm from California. I don't have any right to say y'all. But anyway, I'm going to Bali. And I'm gonna be vlogging, and I'm gonna be sharing my experience at a yoga teacher training. And I'm going to be taking you around Bali with me and showing and sharing my adventures. So make sure you're subscribed. I'm gonna try to stick to my regular upload schedule of Monday and Thursday. We'll see once I get to Bali if that changes, but I will be planning, or I am planning on uploading 2 videos every single week still. So make sure you're subscribed. Also, make sure you're following me on Instagram at Shayla Quinn, because I will be sharing on there on the daily as well. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helped. Namaste.